Welcome, everybody, to the Weekly Grind Podcast. I am your host, Keith Fabbri, with my co-host tonight, Doctortoddlee. Todd, how you doing?
Fantastic.
All right, and Todd, tonight we have a special guest with us. We have IFBB Pro Women's Physique competitor, Dani Reardon. Dani, welcome to the Weekly Grind Podcast. Dani, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
No.
Welcome to the Weekly Grind Podcast.
Skype is a lot harder than it looks.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for having me. It's really a pleasure to be talking with you and connecting with you, and it's an honor to be a part of your podcast. So thank you for asking me.
Oh, absolutely. Well, for those who don't know you, why don't you give us a little bit of background on yourself, some contest history in that, if anybody's been under a rock for the last couple of years?
Okay. Well, I compete in the women's physique division. I'm an IFBB pro. I recently competed at the Olympia, and I was awarded sixth. The year before that, I was runner-up Miss Olympia, and also in the same year, 2016, I was runner-up Arnold Classic champion. So those are, I guess, the bigger highlights of my career. Out of that, though, I think an even bigger gift has come, and that's through Instagram and YouTube. It's been really, really, really awesome to connect with people like all over the world. And I think that's something that's really special that bodybuilding has brought me other than the stage. So that's kind of like another highlight to my career, I would say. I have 2 dogs and a husband. We just recently got married on 11/11. And what else about me? Oh, I'm vegan. I am now bodybuilding vegan. This is my very first prep and I'm actually being vegan. So it's been a huge learning, growing experience, and I'm pretty excited about it. And what else about me? I like to laugh. I like to pose. I like music. Yeah, and Oreos.
And Oreos.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like Oreos?
Yeah, it's like, who doesn't love Oreos?
They're vegan. You know, how awesome is that? I was like, you know what? If they weren't, I don't know. It would have been a lot harder.
Well, the vegan is actually the topic of our conversation tonight, or the majority of it. The fact that you are prepping for IFBB contests, supposed to be the Arnold Classic. Is that still on your radar, or have we decided to do something different at this point?
Jimmy, where are you?
Lost her. She's back. You there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. I lost you for a second there. I watched your icon go in and out.
Yes, for some reason it like X'd out of the call.
Okay. Well, no, that's no big deal. I can see if you're there or not, because that's the good thing about this. I can see if you're there, so it's not a huge deal. It happens. It happens to Todd. It's happened to one of our other co-hosts many times. So I'm the only one it hasn't happened to, and that's because I initiate the call. Because if it happens to me, then we're all screwed.
Okay. Okay.
So anyway, with the vegan thing, you're dieting vegan for this contest. This is your first contest, you said, to diet vegan. It was the Arnold Classic. Is that still on your radar, or did you decide to go do another show, or are you doing multiple shows? What's the plan here?
Okay, so pretty much up until yesterday, you guys are actually the first people that know. I was doing the Arnold. I still have to talk to the IFBB because honestly, I did sign the contract.
Okay.
But I would prefer not to do it. I think that, okay, physically, could I push through it and get lean and do a ton of cardio? Absolutely, I could get ready. But would I show up how I want to show up and how I think I can show up vegan? No. I don't think I could in a matter of 23 days.
Sure.
So we literally just moved into a new place like 2 days ago.
Right.
So my mode has been, I've been dieting and doing all of that, but it hasn't been like full-fledged intense contest prep like I'm used to.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of made the decision to pull out of the show because even if I do get ready and get super shredded and, kill myself doing 3 hours of cardio, I want to represent in the best way possible for the vegan culture, because I think a lot of people are looking to me now to see how I show up as a vegan.
Right.
And, if I show up stringy from doing a ton of cardio, then people are going to blame it on the food, and that pisses me off because it's not even, I would hate to give it a false representation. And then also we really wanted to document the whole thing. And with the move and the wedding and the honey and all the stuff that just happened, we really haven't even made a YouTube video. So, and you only prep vegan, you only do your first one once, you know?
Right.
So I decided to kind of take a back seat and like really focus on making a documentary out of this. We have a couple like exciting titles that I'm excited for. So yeah, we're going to document everything. I'm going to interview a bunch of other vegan bodybuilders and really, really just like exploit this and show people that not that they need to go vegan or vegetarian. That's not what this is about. It's more so about there's another way to do things.
It is possible.
How to do it.
Right.
Yeah, and just at least show them the way, or plant a little seed in their mind that things don't always have to be the way that they've been done.
Right.
So that's really that was my selling factor, to be honest with you, is kind of like showing the people what can be done. And like with Ian, all his video editing skills and everything, I really think that like with our powers combined, we could really make a really strong message and impact. And so as far as show goes, there's one in 10 weeks, and it is the Orlando Europa right here in my hometown. And, I really couldn't think of a better way to debut the vegan thing for myself personally than have like all my tribe and my people around. So that's actually been like exciting. And like when I decided to not do the Arnold, I felt like a little bit of a relief.
Sure.
Because, there's just that unknown factor. And I feel like going into a show, like there should never be like a wishy-washy thing or a plan B. Like it should literally be all or nothing. And you're doing the show, you're getting ready, you're signing the contract, the tickets are booked. So I think, taking a step back away from, well, I qualified for the Arnold, so I should do it. But the reality is just because I can do the Arnold doesn't mean I should.
Right.
And a part of me wants to almost like take my, not status, but the level that I compete at down a couple levels to like a local show and kind of build my confidence back up in the vegan bodybuilding way. Like I still have a lot to learn about peak week and,
Sure.
I mean, everything's going as planned now, but, things can get messed up in a matter of hours.
Right.
So it was hard. It was a very hard decision to make because I know that people are going to the Arnold to see me specifically. They've messaged me, and it was hard to think about letting them down.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you have to do what's best for you and for your career, obviously, because it's your career. So, I mean, if you have to make a decision, people need to understand that it's your decision, it's your body, it's your prep. So, obviously, I mean, the fact that you're admitting that you need to take more time and you're not just going to go and rush because you want to present the best package that you possibly can for your fans and for yourself. That's really what, as a professional, that's what you should be doing. So you're doing the right thing as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. Well, cool. Thank you. That it means a lot because it was a hard decision because, physically we can push through anything.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
now at the end of this prep, physically, if I push through it, am I going to be burnt out for the rest of the season?
Right.
And then just, so, I feel good about it. It was definitely a tough decision to make, but I feel like I want to show up and like shake the shit out of the industry. You know what I mean? Be like, whoa,
Right.
without me.
Right.
So I want to stand up on stage as a game changer when
Right.
I go. Yeah. And I'd love to do it in my hometown right here. I mean, we don't even have to get a hotel.
Right. Well, I'd say that'd be easier for you, less stress and everything else. You're sitting at home. You can just basically you drive to the venue and drive home at the end of the night. It's not as much wear and tear on you. You don't have to travel to have to worry about with flying, and everything else. And, you've never done this before. So you, like you said, with a peak week, you don't know exactly how that's going to go. It's kind of a guessing game at this point. You're trying to feel your way through it. So if you're in your comfortable environment, it's probably a better idea anyway.
Yeah, I agree. And what actually is kind of cool about the way we kind of rushed the beginning of this whole prep. So now I'm in a really cool spot where I can see what carbs are doing to my body. You know, like there's enough of the fluff is gone. So where I can see like if I'm getting a pump from like a cheat meal or something.
Right.
So I think that would be a really cool thing to have these next 10 weeks as I'm, getting ready for the show.
All right. Well, let's talk about some of these challenges that you're facing as far as with the vegan diet and stuff, and some of the things that you've found that maybe you've learned the hard way going through this. What are some of the challenges as far as finding proper protein sourcing and stuff for your body?
Well, okay, so right after the Olympia, like backstage, it was like super dramatic for me. I threw out all of my turkey and my like all my meat containers and stuff. So right after that is when I started going vegan and plant-based. So there was like an acclimation process that had to happen with my body.
Right.
And that was kind of tough because I wasn't really sure what was happening, and it was kind of like watery and fluffy and just not what I'm used to. So there was that was kind of and then right around that time we actually got married. So I was like, damn it, man, like why do you have to be fluffy?
All the stress from the wedding plus all the stress from everything in your diet changing all at the same time.
Oh my God, it was I look at myself and I'm like, damn, like you just needed another month of like just chilling.
Right.
But so as far as food goes, it was really exciting. Do you remember like whenever you first started lifting and you go to the grocery store and you turn over the backs of everything and you're like, oh my God, how much protein, how much carbs? And it's like you just like a new like little student in the grocery store again.
Right.
That's kind of what I felt like. And I felt like that too because I started cooking for Ian, my husband, before I went vegan. So I kind of got very familiar before I actually started, eating. But one of the things that I really like tofu and tempeh and textured vegetable protein as my protein sources. Okay. They're very light in my stomach and easy to digest. Now there's one called seitan, and that's a thing that's, I think it's like 80% protein. It's like very similar to beef, if not better than beef. Okay. As far as protein content goes. And it tastes awesome. Like it's really good. It's made from wheat meat. They call it wheat meat because it's actually vital wheat gluten. Right. So it's very hard for your body to actually digest it if you eat a lot of it. So I love it. And I'm like, whoa, this is like 80% protein. So I went for like maybe 2 days of like 7 meals a day with like straight seitan. And by the third day, and like I couldn't go to the bathroom because it was like bread in my stomach. Right. And
blow up too? Like you got all puffy?
Did I get puffy? Yeah, it was my fingers were tingling, my cheeks. It was like I was pregnant with like this seitan baby. And I'm like, I'm not
pregnant with Satan's baby.
Yeah, for real. That's what it felt like. And I was like, a part of me thought that like bread was like cooking in my stomach. It was so distended. It was, and then I walked into Publix to go get like some things to help me go to the bathroom. And of course, like you see people and like one of my eyes is like swollen shut. It was like,
Jesus
I will never forget that. It was like,
stay away from Satan, guys.
Right. Yeah, don't ever eat that.
The thing is, I was having it for 7 meals a day. Though. Yeah. Like it was very ridiculous.
So it was like overkill to go right straight into that. And if you would have eaten like 1 or 2 meals a day, you probably would have been fine. But going to 7 meals because of the protein content was probably a little bit too much for your body.
Oh, way too much. I thought I found the holy grail of vegan bodybuilding. And
you found different.
I found different.
You said it's similar to beef as far as the protein. So it's the protein is all complete proteins. It has all the essential aminos and stuff in it. Because I feel like that would be the biggest thing, the biggest challenge with vegan eating would be finding complete protein sources, because traditionally the most complete protein sources are animal proteins and stuff, because the amino acid profile of it, you have all 20 essential aminos that your body has to break down and absorb. which
Right.
is honestly the only way that you can start protein synthesis is to have all 20 of those available at the same time. So to me, that would be the hardest thing about the whole thing. So you're saying that is a complete protein, that you're not having any issues finding that?
I couldn't tell you if it's like missing an amino acid
Right.
or not. What I do try to do as far as complete protein sources is I've never really been super diligent with like EAAs or BCAAs. Like,
Sure.
I don't know that I've ever finished a whole can of them. But this time I was really diligent about taking, EAAs just to make sure.
You're getting them all.
I also think that complete protein sources can be acquired throughout the day. I don't know that it's super important that it needs to be like meal by meal.
Yes.
And there are things like lysine and leucine that you can honestly get from like broccoli, and kind of like other protein sources. So I'm not super concerned with like the amino acids and where I'm getting what. I'm kind of just making sure that I definitely get in my BCAAs and EAAs like supplemental, like once or twice a day. And I actually prefer pills just because it's less calories and
Sure.
Yeah. So that.
Yeah, that answered my question. That was, like I said, that would be the biggest drawback would be not being able to make sure you get all of those essential aminos. But like you said, as long as you're getting them all in you in excess like you need throughout the day, they don't all have to come from one source. And then you're supplementing with BCAAs and EAAs to make sure that you do get what you need to keep your body fed with the proper aminos. So that's just my question right there, because I feel like if you don't do that, then you're probably setting yourself up for failure as far as protein synthesis goes.
Yep, 100%. And something like tofu. So tofu is kind of cool. It has 8 essential amino acids. I think it's missing lysine. I think.
Okay.
But there is a thing you can get which actually tastes good, vegan or not. It's called nutritional yeast flakes.
Okay.
And it's almost like a little seasoning. It looks like fish food, but that is jam-packed full of aminos and nutrients and vitamins and minerals. And you can just sprinkle it on like the seitan or rice, or you could even eat it like I've like eaten it like a spoonful of it because it's kind of good. It's
eat it like peanut butter.
I liked it. It was good. So I think that people almost like they're like so concerned with something that's not a huge concern,
Sure.
Like
They look for reasons not to do something. Like, I don't want to change. I'm going to be negative about something, and this is something that other people are using as an excuse not to do it, so I'm going to use that excuse not to do it.
Right.
100%.
Well, I think
so. It's like the legume family doesn't have lysine, but like peas, beans. You talk about tofu, which is made from soybeans. I'm pretty sure that's a legume also. Peanuts are surprisingly legumes. So it's like I myself have thought perhaps I can minimize the amount of animal death I cause by going to 1 or 2 protein, like chicken meals, do like 1 pound of chicken a day as opposed to 3, but use beans and peas as my carb source, and like baby steps it into the vegan movement without losing any mass as I go. So your documentary would be extremely helpful for me because I don't want any animal blood on my hands, but I also don't want to lose any gains either. So there's got to be a right way to do it. So if you and your husband are going to document this, I'm all eyes.
Right.
So I want to see that.
Well, and at the same time, it is to me that, so, like you said, you don't have to make a full switch to vegan, but I think it could help a lot of us out as far as improving digestion and everything else. If you're not eating animal source proteins all day long and your body is constantly digesting that food, it's working. It's a lot of wear and tear on your kidneys. If you can get some of those amino sources and this protein source, whether it's they're all complete or not, into your diet, to increase the amount of protein that you're taking in without having to eat all those animal sources, you got to believe it's going to benefit you in the long run.
Oh, 100%. You know what? It's funny because I think they say something that they're like, oh, well, vegans are protein deficient. But it's like, when has anybody ever really been protein deficient?
Right.
But I think it's like some crazy statistic, like 93% of people or Americans are fiber deficient.
Right.
And you can only get fiber from plants. But protein, you can get from plants and animals. So I thought that was a pretty cool statistic too, because my husband actually, before he went vegan, he had digestion issues. He's a bodybuilder also. He's competing in classic physique. So, it's like super high protein, not a whole lot of fiber. And, he had like issues. Like we'd have to kind of go to the doctor and be like, try to like figure out the stomach thing. Sure. And he went vegan and literally was cured. Like he'll tell you he's cured. Right. Perfect poops every single time. And, he's not losing gains or anything. And I went very extreme. I literally went from a prep with a meat-based diet to a prep with a plant-based diet. And some days I feel like I'm bigger. Like some days I actually feel like I put on some mass. And it's...
Now, have you seen the What the Health documentary, Dani?
I have, yeah.
Okay, good. Because that's what got my gears turning.
Yeah.
And obviously I'm a slow dinosaur to move, but I can watch and pay attention. And it's like, I want what they're saying to be true.
Yeah.
I'm just a skeptical dude, so I'm like paying attention. It sounds like if I got this is what I put together is 2.5 grams of leucine every 4 hours. It gives you muscle protein synthesis 4 times a day.
Yep.
That 1.25 times your weight if you're dieting, 1.1 times your weight if you're trying to grow in total protein. But it doesn't need to be animal sources. Only the leucine is the mitigating factor. That using vegan sourcing is so low in leucine, you would have to have 400 grams of plant protein to get enough leucine. But if you're supplementing with leucine,
then it doesn't matter.
Right. Ounces of chicken and using beans or using peas instead of rice as your carb source, it should be enough. And that's the modality I'm thinking right now. Is 2 to 4 ounces of chicken 4 times a day with a very high legume content as for my carb sources. And that's how I was going to start my first month of prep and see how it turns out. Because right now I'm eating turkey and pasta, or I'm eating chicken and ramen. Because I grow on noodles. But I'm thinking about, now, have you found that there are vegetable carbs, like for instance, vegetable noodles that are mass produced that you like that have higher protein? What about right now? Okay. Do you got a pasta you like that's made out of vegetables that's high in protein?
Yeah, well, it's actually any like black bean pasta or edamame pasta.
Okay.
They make them into like fettuccine and like right now I have rotini. And I think there's like 14 grams of protein per serving.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and it's actually very high, and they taste so good. They really do, especially put them with Asian sauces. Taste really good.
Okay, because I usually diet on Asian food. I do all Asian for my contest prep. That's funny. You should say that.
Oh, honestly, well, there's like coconut aminos, and what's really good is like tofu. Okay, I have an air fryer. If you don't have an air fryer, I highly recommend one, especially for prep. And like tofu is kind of hard to cook. Like the first time, honestly, I messed it up, and it was like a mushy, gross thing. But if you learn how to cook it, it's pretty enjoyable and pretty similar to chicken in macros also.
Okay.
Because you can actually get a high protein one. So I go to Trader Joe's. I just found this thing. Like somebody, and I was eating the normal tofu that comes in the brine. But this one, it comes vacuum sealed, and it has 15 grams of protein per serving. And I think there's 5 servings in a package. So the whole package, you're up to 60 grams of protein.
Okay.
And something else that's good to use too, if you want to like, the tempeh is actually a little less processed than tofu. And tempeh has a little bit higher fat and carb count, but it has good protein because it's beans. So if you can factor in the carbs and the fat into your macros, the tempeh is actually a really awesome clean meal. And honestly, all of those, and textured vegetable protein is like my shit right now. They're all very light in my stomach. Like I'm hungry all the time. I'll be honest. I'm starving all the time. But after I eat, I feel very, very light. I don't know how to explain it.
No, I know what you're talking about. It's kind of like if I eat tilapia and white rice, I'm hungry again in an hour. I could eat the same macros in beef and broccoli and be full for 6-7 hours,
Right,
and not get food in. So for someone like me who has to keep eating because I have to get a ton of food in just to hit my minimum calories even when dieting, it sounds like vegan would be easier on digestion, easier to get the food in.
100%. 100%.
What are your carbohydrate sources? Your main go-tos right now for carbohydrates?
Oh, it's pretty similar. Than as what you would think. Oatmeal.
Okay.
White rice, jasmine rice.
Okay.
And rice cakes. Cream of rice. I don't really have a whole lot of noodles. I wish I did, but I don't. And I said rice cakes. See, now that we've been kind of crash dieting, everything's been very low. So I really like rice cakes because it seems like I'm getting a lot.
But you're not, right?
But I'm not. And like oatmeal, I like because I can add a lot of water to it, and it can be like super.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. But if you guys haven't tried textured vegetable protein, TVP, it's super, super easy to make. Like literally just add hot water and it rehydrates. It's very high protein, very low carb, very low fat. And it's cheap.
Very cool.
Yep.
Cheap is good.
So
we like things that are cheap.
So as long as we're hitting like 4 meals with 2.5 leucine per meal and getting about, for Keith, probably 60 to 70, for me, about 50 grams of protein per meal, that's hitting our minimums. Then whatever carbs came with the vegetable pasta is what our carbs are. Then we could add in more rice or rice cakes if need be. We probably can consume more carbs than you can, but I'm sure you consume way more than the typical female competitor, being physique and being at the level that you're at. So you probably are going to be a pioneer for everyone who wants to live longer than 60 years old.
Yeah, and it's funny. That's the words pioneer, courage, and bravery have been really, really prevalent in my mind. And there's been a couple vegan bodybuilders before, but I feel like I'm going to do it different. And, it's funny because I used to be meat lover on everything, like pizza, everything, like as much meat as possible. And then like once I made the connection with animals, kind of like you said, like you don't want animal blood on your hands. It really was just a switch for me. Like, and I'm like totally a food sneaker. Like I will sneak a cookie in the middle of the night or like, you know what I mean? But I have not even snuck a chicken nugget. Like it's almost like I feel bad about it. I'm that eater. I'm that cheater. But what makes me know that this is for me is that I haven't snuck any meat,
Well, it's a huge difference because it's a moral boundary as opposed to an arbitrary numerical boundary or an authority boundary.
Yeah.
Most people, they don't get the science. They just, my coach says, I can't do that. Fuck him. And they rebel by cheating on their diet.
Right.
But for a dude, it's kind of like, well, I'll pay those calories back later on the treadmill. It's like, you're not going to wash your soul clean of that chicken you just killed. That blood's on your soul forever. So it's like a lot of people don't value animal life. I just don't know how to get out of this cycle. And if you can show me a way, then that's a huge deal to me. You're going to be like venerated as a saint to a lot of us down the road once we realize how many innocent animal lives we've taken over. If you eat 6 chicken breasts a day, that's 3 chickens a day that die just so you can lift weights.
Right.
I know, it's like a chicken. So lately I've been like there's like a light. Do you have a dog or a cat?
I'm looking at him right now. He's like, why are you looking at me? You're not hungry, are you? I'm like, no, dude, I'm not.
You're not hungry. I'm almost vegan, man. Don't you notice that they almost have like a light in their eyes?
Mm-hmm.
I see the same light in a pig's eyes, in a cow's eyes, even in a mindless chicken's eyes. Like and it's almost like that's the window to the soul to me. So if I see a light in somebody's eyes, I'm almost looking at their soul, and like there's no difference. But like people get mad when you poach a rhino, but you go and mass kill cows. I don't know.
Right.
There's
if
something
you go to
else.
Pennington, Just go to a petting zoo with like a niece or nephew, or if you just kidnap a kid and go to a petting zoo. And so you don't look like you're a pedophile. You've got a kid with you. And then, like, well, you've got a kid, Keith. You don't know the pain.
Right.
Like, I want to petting zoo, and
you can't just borrow somebody's child.
Kids, like, have fun and like, leave me alone. I'm going to bouncy house.
Well, you can borrow mine, actually. Take him off my hands for a little bit.
He likes me, too. I could totally get away with borrowing.
Yeah, he loves you. You were his best friend. You were his best friend when you came over.
Yeah, so much fun.
Oh.
So the point is, petting zoo. If you're like, you're petting this animal, you're like, I'm going to eat you later, fucker. No, you don't think that. You're like, wow, you're really soft and you're really sweet and you're licking me. You're just like a dog. How? And it's like, why don't anyone else make that connection? And why do people laugh at you when you bring it up? You know?
I think their egos are so just like, nobody wants to risk the way they look. You know, like nobody wants to, everyone is so concerned about, you know, their muscles and everything. And I definitely know that it's a concern, but I mean, it's not so much of a concern to where you can like take a life for it, you know? And I feel like the thing, when the switch went off for me, it was like, man, like I love bodybuilding, but I can't eat meat all day long. So I'm like, well, the vegan thing's going to happen, bodybuilding or not. And like, I've built the last 10 years of my life has been dedicated to the sport. So I'm like, I'm going to try it because I have to know if I can do this vegan. And if I can't, then I will take whatever measures I need to take and make decisions in that. But like, I need to know if I can contest prep and get super shredded, you know, vegan. And I think I can, bro. Like, I think I can, and I think I can keep my size and my lines. And, you know, there's no substitute for hard work.
Nope.
You know? And, you know, I've seen people get up on stage eating meat and look stringy and look fat. So,
exactly.
But nobody wants to blame the meat.
No, yeah, it's all in how you use the nutrients that you're allowing yourself to have. I mean, if you use them properly, I don't really give a shit where they come from. You should be able to get shredded. I mean, I've seen people eating fucking Pop-Tarts on their prep, and guess what? They still come in, you know, peeled. It's just when they're eating them, how many they're eating, they're using them in a smart way, or, you know, so, you know, the body will metabolize whatever you give it as long as you do it properly and you take the correct measures and you know, you get the right amount of exercise in and you're burning calories. It's still calories in and calories out.
At the end of the day, that's all it is. It's numbers.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like the Matrix. It's all math.
And the thing about this with vegan, this was a cool thing for me to realize. So if you believe that you are what you eat, and before these animals get slaughtered, don't you think that they're like super afraid? Like they must know what's like they're afraid. And then their hormones that are circulating are all fear-based, you know? And then we eat that. That goes into our bloodstream. And like, look at us as a society. Everyone's afraid to like, you know, step out of the mold and do something different. And everybody is also, a good majority of people are meat eaters. And I feel like there's some kind of correlation there, because when you see people who are vegans, like they almost have a different, they don't really give a shit. Like they're not afraid to have green hair and purple hair. And you know what I mean? They're just, I almost admire that, the walk in truth that they do. And
there is a rebelliousness too.
I'm sorry, my dog.
No, you're fine. We're going to take a commercial break here, guys, and we are going to come back in a few minutes, and we will come back with Dani Reardon. So we'll be back in just a minute.
Have you ever wished there was a site devoted to providing true information about bodybuilding? One that shows you what the top bodybuilders are really doing? It's all here at musclementor.net. Nutrition, training, supplements, super supplements, contest prep, final week prep, and everything in between. There's training logs, diet logs, scientific articles, and hours of video footage covering every detail involved with building muscle and losing body fat. Brought to you by prep gurus Justin Harris and Brad Hall, all for only $9.99 a month. That's right, musclementor.net. Let's get free. Valhalla Labs at valhalla-labs.com. Created by Doctortoddlee himself, champion bodybuilder and biochemist, the best in testosterone support and intra and post-workout nutrition.
And we are back with IFBB Pro Dani Reardon talking about her vegan prep for the Europa in Orlando. Was going to be the Arnold, but she's decided to forego the Arnold, and you're doing the Europa Games now instead in Orlando, right in your hometown. We talked a lot about your protein sources and what it is that you're using there. And you said touched on that your digestion is better, and that your husband follows the same thing, and then his digestion is good, and he's a bodybuilder as well. Let's talk about your energy levels now that you're prepping vegan as opposed to a normal meat-based diet. Are you noticing any difference with your energy levels just in your everyday life and in the gym?
Yeah. Well, I guess in life, yeah, I have like a higher energy level, I think I would say, like even like a higher vibration. I feel a little more clear, and I feel like I'm questioning things even more too now, and that is kind of giving me more energy. And then also like we were talking about earlier about being kind of like first time, that's giving me energy. But I really don't find myself on a roller coaster of energy, like almost like insulin spike all day long.
Yep.
It's just, I guess it's like not noticeable. I think before when I was eating a lot of meat, it was very much like up and down all day. But now it just seems like it's really sustained.
Sure. So you're not getting the blood sugar drops and stuff that you would sometimes normally get from a normal meat based contest prep diet.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I don't know that meat, it's hard to say because what's spiking my insulin, I wouldn't, normally when I think of an insulin spike or blood sugar drop, I think carbs and sugar.
Sure.
Right.
But meat definitely be doing that and attributing to that roller coaster feel. But I guess what I would say is that nothing's noticeably bad or over the top great. It's very even keeled off.
Okay.
Oh.
I'm hungry. I find that I'm very hungry. I'm a very hungry person. Like I'll be eating and be hungry for my next meal, like as I'm eating the previous one. But I find that it's very lighter in my stomach. My digestion is better, so that's probably why I'm hungry. Everything's moving nicely. So yeah, I would say everything seems to be really good.
What about your energy in the gym? Do you notice any difference there? We're just, it's overblown with, people thinking that you're not going to have, just along the lines of the same thing with the, losing muscle, that with the same thing with the vegan diet, that, you're not going to have the energy in the gym because you're not getting, normal food.
I don't find that at all.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't at all. And, even sometimes when I do cardio, I find that maybe my endurance is better.
Okay.
And the other day, there's been probably 3 training sessions where I got this crazy pump, and like I literally could not even do a lunge, body weight lunge. My legs got so pumped, and I don't even know like what happened or where. Like I thought I injured myself, and it happened in my back and in my glutes. So
The arginine.
Yeah.
The arginine content's through the roof in vegetable-based protein. Glutamine and arginine are huge in all the vegetable proteins.
Yep.
Okay.
So the recovery, the blood sugar normalization is probably the glutamine, and the arginine's nitric oxide precursor. You're supposed to get 10 grams of arginine a day before you see any benefits. So the pre-workouts have 1 or 2 grams don't do shit. You just think that they do.
Right.
But when you're getting in all that arginine from all of your all of your vegetable protein, that's probably why you're getting sick-ass pumps.
Right.
Oh my God, I couldn't even bend my leg. I'm like, do I have rhabdo right now? I literally thought oh my God. And I did 1 set of leg press and then went to go do lunges and like barely could. It was pretty insane. And I was impressed. I was impressed with the plants. I'm like, You know what? My legs hurt, and it's probably because of the plants.
Right. Strength is your strength still the same as what it was? Is it higher? Is it lower? I mean, is there I just want to get an idea of, if there's any differences in here, because
I think it's higher.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of fallacies and stuff where people really don't know. I think they just fucking guess. You know, like, oh, you're not eating steak, you're not eating chicken, so your muscles are going to deflate. Oh, you're not getting in the same carb sources, and you're eating so many vegetables that you're just going to be weak. And I don't think it's really. I mean, it's fallacy is what it is. If people really don't know, they just guess.
Isn't a silverback gorilla vegetarian?
Yeah,
yes,
that was right. I knew that was coming up.
Yep.
Rhinos, elephants, and gorillas all tear you to pieces. They're all vegetarian.
Yep.
Yeah, the big bosses.
Right.
Yeah. So I find that my strength. See, I don't really lift super heavy either. Like my rep range barely ever goes below 6. So like I wouldn't be able to tell you like 1 rep max or any kind of percentages.
No.
But I will tell you that I feel like. I'm stronger. I have better control over the weight. Like the proprioception is a little bit better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pleased.
Now, do you find that you have more emotional mood swings? I find that if you try to talk to a vegan and they get mad at you, they blow the fuck up at you. Whereas they seem to be a lot less stable emotionally than normal people. Have you noticed that in yourself at all?
I'm kind of like that normally.
Okay, so you're bad measurement, huh?
We should probably ask her husband that question, not her.
Yeah. Like, you get beaten more. Are you okay again?
Yeah. I find that I'm less moody now.
Okay, good.
And that might be weird. I don't even know. I didn't even know that was a thing. But it's because like maybe it has to do with the blood sugar levels. Because like when I'm hangry and when I'm hungry is when I'm really moody.
Yeah.
So maybe the fact that maybe things are a little more sustained. I don't have the ups and downs of the mood swings. And if I get mood swings now, it's either because I'm hungry or because I'm like, there's a lot on my plate.
Sure.
But I don't know that it's food. And I think that a lot of vegans per se that get kind of worked up, especially if you're talking about veganism, I think that they don't know why you don't see eye to eye with them. And I think, and this kind of pisses me off actually about vegans, like the ones that think that you have to go all the way plant-based or like you suck at life, and like the ones with the signs that make you want to cry.
Right.
And like, I freaking hate that because honestly, it turns off people who are vegan. It turns me off to them. And I want to go up to them and be like, you guys, you're doing it wrong. Come out with a protein bar that is completely vegan and be like, look how awesome plants can be. Instead of look at all the bad shit you're doing. Like, I just think that they do it and they almost get on like a little bit of a high horse. Like, I don't know. So there's also stuff that I want to talk about and document about this topic right here. Cause I think it could be very differently. And I think if vegans approached it differently, then a lot more people would join.
More less sticks. Like here's some positive things about veganism rather than you fucking meat eaters burning hell. Like okay.
Well, and a lot of times I just think, people, like you said, they get on their high horse. Everybody has to understand that it's a personal choice for that person, whether the person wants to eat meat or the person wants to eat all plant-based products. It's a personal choice. Just like anything else you do in your life is a personal choice. And we shouldn't look down on anybody for either choice, because neither choice is necessarily wrong. It's just what's right for you.
Exactly. And then I appreciate an open conversation with somebody.
Sure.
Like if I can maybe switch, I don't even need to switch a perspective, but if I can make you think twice about what you put in your mouth and the way, then to me, that's a win. I don't need to make someone convert totally. And then if they don't, they're like, oh, whatever. It's just, it's so silly how people, vegans per se, react. You're not helping.
Right.
Baby steps.
Yeah, exactly. Baby steps.
Oh my God. 1 meal a day. Just learn how to cook it.
Right.
Learn how to cook it
Right.
and like it, and then start adding it.
Well, like Todd, like you said, and I said the same thing. It doesn't. You don't have to go full. I mean, if I'm eating 3 pounds of meat a day, if I cut it down to 2 and I get that other protein source from that 1 pound from plant-based products, it's, you know, it's going to benefit, like I said, it's going to benefit me in the long run because my digestion's going to be better. You know, it's probably fucking cheaper. I mean, I can't imagine it being, you know.
Yeah, it is.
Progress.
You know,
build Rome in a day.
And as long as I can still improve, and as long as, you know, I can still improve on my physique, then what's the harm in it?
Yeah, exactly. And of course you can. Like, you guys know all the science behind it.
Sure.
And it's a matter of like taking the step, taking the couple months and like trying it,
right.
Just so you see that, like, oh my God, wait a minute, I'm actually not losing muscle. And the disconnect I think that's happened is the two worlds haven't been collided yet. So the vegans are very concerned about saving the animals, saving the planet, you know, this and that. Their concern is that. Bodybuilders are so concerned about protein content and muscle building.
Right.
And not necessarily the animals. Like, they're just a little bit, they're not really as compassionate because I think they're a little more selfish. I don't want to say selfish, but like.
Oh, we're selfish.
Ego, yeah.
Well, okay. This Heisman, remember the alpha movement? For like months, it was like the dude who just had a heart transplant who said motherfucker like a motherfucker. He would be like, all alpha this, alpha this. The MMA had team alpha this. I'm so alpha. It's like, y'all beta bitches if you're talking about alpha stuff, first of all. Second of all, it's like the concept that you need to be the apex predator. Well, if you think about it, a predator needs prey to survive or they die.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you're like a rhino or a elephant, nobody fucks with a rhino. No one fucks with an elephant, and they don't need any other motherfuckers. They're totally independent. They're the cheetah, the lion. That's a dependent. An independent animal. It needs animals to eat. But the gorilla, the rhino, and the elephant doesn't need any other animals. It could exist totally by itself because it just eats plants. So really, it's like you step outside, you're beyond an apex predator if you don't even need prey to eat.
Right.
And that's more alpha than alpha.
Yeah, alpha. Oh, it's just so, I don't even know if I don't know. I don't like that whole, it's funny because like after I kind of started questioning everything, bodybuilding took a really interesting turn for me. And it was really hard for me to get a hold of a new, I had to totally develop a new, like, why I want to do this. And like, I look at the whole industry and I'm like, oh my God, like, do you guys, at superficial is the only thing I can think of. And like, there's just so much more. Like bodybuilding can be looked at like a martial art, you know, not a brand post. And like the elephants you were saying, those are like herders, you know, those are the ones people respect and look up to the elephant. They're not afraid of them like they're afraid of a lion, you know. And I think that's something to be said about, you know, like what you said, elephants and them being plant-based and not needing anybody else, but everybody follows them, don't they?
Right. And so isn't that more alpha? Is that you're not abusing something else, stomping it down, saying, I'm bigger and stronger than you and I can lift more, kiss my ass. And then people they're afraid of that, and it's respect out of fear, versus you just go in there, you do your own thing, you're covered up, nobody sees shit. At the end of your workout, you take your hoodie off or whatever because you're so hot and sweaty you don't have a choice. You know, versus I go in there in a stringer and no muscles and take 100 pictures in the best lighting and then filter the shit out of it.
Yes, I agree with you.
That it's like, so it's like they need the validation. They need to have the muscles to compensate for something. And then once you're through that and you look backwards and you're like, I mean, in your case, you were runner-up Miss Olympia.
Yeah.
So you're in the same boat as Kevin LeBron and like Lee Priest, and you know, you're like a legendary individual, but you're in this moment. You don't realize the impact you're going to have 20 or 30 years from now and the thousands of women whose lives you're going to change. You know, like Lee Priest doesn't think of me when he thinks of in 1999 when he's on stage, like, oh, this dude in 20 years is going to be really push himself in the gym because of what I'm doing today. That's never would go through his head. But, you know, the wisdom of your impact won't hit you for decades to come. It's like George Lucas. You're a Star Wars fan. It's like he didn't know what the fuck he was doing in 77, except he was playing with a bunch of toys and a video camera. You know, he's like, oh, I fuck Star Trek. This is much better. Ha ha ha. I'm going to make the Bushido code with laser swords, and I'm going to do it in space. You know, and it's like, yeah, shit works. It's like it's going to be the new Bible in about 2,000 years.
Yeah.
So people don't realize the impacts that they have. So if you didn't want to say publicity or whatever word you didn't want to use was the appropriate word, if you can be the first Miss Olympia who's a vegan, or the first Miss International, I don't know if they still use that title, the Arnold Classic winner used to be called the Miss International.
Yep.
The first Miss International who's a vegan, then you tell millions of women you can.
Well, and that it's okay to do.
An animal lover and have the body you want.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Wow, that's powerful.
Well,
So I didn't even realize that that's me. Is it weird that there's like almost like a disconnect sometimes between like when people say stuff like that? I'm like, holy shit.
Well, I mean, it's not even necessarily being a champion. It's just the fact that you've done it. You achieved your goal and you looked the way you wanted to. Win, lose, or draw. That doesn't really make it, because we all know the sport's arbitrary and it's subjective to somebody's view. But if you go on stage looking your absolute best that you can possibly look, being a vegan, then you've achieved your goal and you've shown other people that it is possible for you to do this. So, I mean, it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to do this, but you know, it's a fucking option to do if you want to do it, or to do it, 50-50, like Todd, like you said, or, whatever percentage of plant-based, food that you want to intake during your prep. So it is possible to do. So I applaud you for it. I mean, it's not something that I would necessarily try, not right now anyway. I mean, I would like to do something different, but I'm gonna have to wait till the off season. I'm not gonna toy with it during a contest prep, because I just it wouldn't be a bright idea at this point, because I don't know necessarily what I'm doing and how I would go about doing it. Something like you have to almost, like you said, take a couple of months to kind of figure your body out with the this different food source that you're using, and how to actually apply it to what you need to apply it, to your daily regimen. So, but it's not something that I'm opposed to. That's for sure. As much as I love meat, it's still something that I would love to do. Yeah.
1 month I can play with it before I can actually have to put it in the metal.
Right.
And I know I can at least cut it down. I know I can at least get away with converting 50 to 100 protein to vegetable protein.
My wife actually wants to do it. I mean, she wants to start doing the vegan thing because she has digestion issues as well, and it would probably help her quite a bit. So. Oh,
in the first day.
Yeah, I can imagine within a couple of days at least. Just depending on how big of a person you are, you probably notice right away. The difference in digestion and your hunger especially.
Yeah.
And for the record, I watched that 216 Olympia prejudging today and the Arnold, and I thought you looked better. I know that you don't give a fuck what I think, and I'm sure people kiss your ass all the time, but I'm not an ass kisser. You can ask anyone. I'm like the opposite. And it's like, I know I'm not there, but when it comes to total package, you beat the other girl. That's for sure.
Last year's I was kind of we talked our first episode, we talked about you on stage we did Olympia review, and we actually talked about that, and I said that you kind of got shafted in that in sixth place, because I thought the judging for the women portion, all the divisions of the women was kind of all over the map. At the Olympia weekend, I said they want more softness, and you're seeing that with bikini, but then when they get to figure, they kind of switched gears a little bit, but when they got to women's physique, it seemed like they had no idea what the hell they were doing. And I have no problem saying that. I thought sixth place was way too low. You should have been in the top three.
Thank you.
And there was a couple other girls that were in that women's physique too that should have been bumped up a couple spots. I really didn't understand some of the judging and stuff that weekend. So the 2016 one, I can't attest to, but the 2017 Olympia, for sure, you should have been a lot higher than what you were. There was just inconsistency in the judging. That's why I say where it's a subjective. I wouldn't worry about coming in as a vegan and winning the show. I mean, that'd be nice, but You just want to give your best look, because even your best look can be 10th place. It just depends on, what Judge A, B, C, and D think about the way you look, and you can't control that.
Yep, I agree. And it's funny, right before this, I showed Ian the picture that I sent you guys, and I'm like, man, like I just don't think I deserve 6. And I'm like, not if somebody beats me, then I will definitely say that I got beat. But I was like, man, I feel like I could have got like 4th or 5th. But for whatever reason, they did not want me to come back. Like I have to requalify, I think, with points to get to the Olympia. But for like, I don't know if I pissed them off, but I definitely was off my mark. Like we missed the peak like bad. So like Thursday and Friday, I looked phenomenal. And then I woke up Saturday morning and I'm like, do I look right? And, we had a matter of 4 hours. Or 5 hours, and it just didn't hit right. But I still don't think that it was worthy of. I agree with you.
Yeah, I had you 3rd.
Oh,
you could have made a case. You could have made a case for 2nd. You could have made a case for 2nd, but I thought you should have been 3rd. And I said that on episode 1 too. That you should have been in the top 3.
That was a big topic. Was how pissed you were that she was so misplaced.
Right.
Out of all the girls or all the guys, that was the most glaring inconsistency, according to Keith.
Her and in figure, Natalia Coelho was down in like 16th place, and she was the most shredded person in the entire. I don't care what competitor, men, women, she was the most shredded competitor there. And it's still a conditioning contest. You still have to come in shape. And they were rewarding conditioning a little bit with figure, but somehow she managed to be at the very, very bottom. Now she switched to women's physique now. So
it would suck to be a girl because it's so fucking confusing.
It is very confusing as far as how they judge. With bodybuilding, it's pretty easy. Come in big, come in with great with good lines, and come in shredded, and you're going to get rewarded. But for females, it's kind of they change their mind every 2 years on how they want. They soften things up. The girls get harder and harder and harder over that 2-year span. Then they say, nope, fuck you. We're going to make it softer again. They do it, or they half-ass do it for a few shows, and then eventually it goes right back. I mean, it's there's no standard there as far as why I'm concerned. So I think it's really hard being a female competitor because you really never know how you're going to get judged.
Honestly, it's hard. And what's funny, it's 2016. I thought that I won. Like my coaches even got me a cake that said "Congrats, Miss O," like that night before we got the awards and stuff. And they told me I was too striated. And I was like, okay, well, then, I mean, if you're going to be anything, you want to.
There's no such thing in my mind as being too striated.
Yeah.
I know, and I'm like,
you came in too good.
Sorry.
Like, what?
You came in, you did your homework, and you came in too good. What? No.
What?
So that's what Sandy actually told me. And so then the next year, this 2017, we kind of tried to fill me up a lot and kind of be a little bit softer, not so crispy. Right. And they didn't like it. And I was like, man, like, why would you? And then Juliana was shredded to the bone. I mean, she looked awesome. Like, I don't even know that on my best I could have beaten her.
I had no problem with her winning last year. She was the only one that I could see her being, okay, now you have to take everything off of her. And coming off of her, I didn't feel like you should have been in 6th place. I felt you should have been in 3rd. And there, like I said, there was a couple other girls that should have been bumped up that were placed way, way lower than what they should have been. But,
you just got to do it. I was heartbroken though. Like I still don't know that I'm okay. Like totally from that. Because I didn't, not that it's about money, but I thought I was going to at least get, tops. And a month after that we had a wedding. Sure. And, we spent extra money because the hurricane came. So we came back from the Olympia. I thought I was going to get, last year I got 18,000 and that's a ton for me. But this year we came back like negative. Right. And 6th place.
Right. Right. So it's a double slap in the face.
Now, had I gotten 2nd, it would have been a lot harder for me to go vegan, I think, competing wise.
Everything happens for a reason.
100%. I think it kind of was a little bit of a blessing in disguise in that, the 6th place made me be like, fuck me, and then throw it out. And then that was all she wrote. It was that quick for me.
Right. Let's switch gears a little bit here. Let's move on to another topic that always seems to come up, and I know you're very open and honest. So You've agreed to talk about this when nobody else wants to. So we don't. Todd and I don't care. We talk about it regardless. Well, let's talk about
all day, every day.
Let's talk about the subject of gear now.
Okay.
Obviously, you've done what you have done in the past. Is it any different, or are you finding anything that's different this time around with your prep? Being a vegan, does it change anything for you? Is there anything you've eliminated, or anything that you have to do differently?
Honestly, everything is the complete same.
Okay.
Like down to the milligram. I will say now, and I'm saying this because I wanted, like the girls that are listening to this that are injecting Test and Trend, stop it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Stop it. Please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
People are like, how did you keep your femininity? And I'm
Right.
like, because I work super hard. And yes, I take a little bit of shit. Everybody does. And the reality is, if they weren't awarding shredded glutes, then we wouldn't have to take things. But
Right.
what they award is big and lean and hard. So for a female to compete with big and lean and hard, you have to take a little bit of gear. Now, especially in the IFBB. And
Yeah.
But however, it can be done super, super, super safely. And you can keep your femininity and still get jacked and lean, but you have to put in the work and the cardio to get conditioned. Like, you can take all the gear you want and show up on stage fat.
Yeah.
And so I say this because I don't inject anything. There are a little bit of anabolics I've taken. I have experimented with SARMs. But, everything from vegan to meat, like my gear is the exact same.
Let's point this out to people because they may have missed a critical detail. This is the #2 woman in the world in the sport of bodybuilding. Specifically, the most muscular, lowest body fat subdivision called physique. She still doesn't inject anything. So for all of you amateur girls who are getting 5th or 6th in your shows, injecting Trend, there's no reason for that. If the absolute pinnacle of the sport doesn't need it, you sure as fuck don't need it.
Right.
I'm sorry. Continue.
Well, thank you. No, and I say that because I almost want to make a whole YouTube video on this because I want to save these young girls that are just, they're hearing it from their meathead boyfriends. And they're like, oh, yeah, here you go, babe. You're some Winnie. And it's like, oh, my God, like do you even know the science behind that and what it's going to do to that?
No, they don't.
Like, and the girls don't either. They just see girls that they're looking up to, like myself, who's big and lean and hard. And then they get some bro science information and they put this shit in their bodies and then it's ruined. And then they always have to take that to get to that level again. Every time they prep, chances are they have to take that. And, easier in this sport, I don't know that people understand that, like, hard work is almost like a virtue. You should work harder than you gear harder.
Sure.
This isn't a steroid contest.
No, it's bodybuilding. Diet and training are number one, or 1A, 1B. They always will be. The rest of the stuff is just supplementary, and it's just to give you that little finishing touch. Yeah,
and like these girls have to think, like, what about after bodybuilding?
Yeah.
Even Juliana, she's 44, whatever she is, but a lot of people, their careers don't go that long.
Nope.
And like, let's say you're a teacher and you have to stand up in front of a class and like give a speech, or like, people, you have to think about, I think you should have a limit, I think everyone should kind of have a limit to how much they're going to take and like, what they're willing to do. And, there's a point there. I'm at my limit right now. So like, if I have to take any more than I'm taking now to compete with these girls and what's being awarded, then like, I'm just going to have to be cool with getting 6 because,
sure.
It's like, oh God, there's just so much more out there.
We're switched to figure and gear down.
Yeah, totally, bro. I even thought about coming off everything and doing bikini just because I'm like,
that would be cool.
And I could do that. I could work it up there,
There's no shame in any of the girl divisions. It's just like, you like lifting heavy, you like being big, then do physique. If you don't mind wearing heels, do figure. If you want to look, if you're not into the muscle look and you don't mind strutting your stuff, do bikini. And if you don't like one of them after a couple of years, switch to one of the other divisions.
Yeah, switch.
Go ahead. I just got a girl to win first and almost win an overall gear free, and she just didn't believe that she could even get top 5 without gear. This is an NPC show, and it was in a major Florida. And it's like, honestly, for how bad most people lift, you lifting right without gear is still going to do better than everyone else lifting wrong.
Right.
Yeah, and food too.
Right.
You know, it's like if you're eating properly, if the nutrients are there to support the work, then how could it not be in your favor?
Yeah. People have asked me and stuff, what do you take, or what, I get those stupid questions, and the first thing that always comes to my mouth is food. I eat a lot. That's how I got this big. You're not going to just get 250, 260 pounds in the off season by, eating like a bird and taking a bunch of gear. It's just not going to happen. You have to lift weights, and you have to train hard, and you have to diet, and you have to eat just as hard as you train.
Yep.
That's
100%.
it.
And I think people they almost look at bodybuilding differently. Like they don't look at my favorite, I love being in the gym in my hoodie, just like drenched in sweat. And like, I don't even train. I very rarely train in a tank top. I only train in a tank top for videos, because I don't need to look at it. It makes me uncomfortable.
Sure.
Like I just want to work. But I think people are so concerned with how they look that they gear up, because to them the work isn't as sought after.
Well, people are lazy. Let's be honest. People are lazy.
Wicked. They just want to look good.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. 100% of online clients just want you to put them on a gear cycle, and you're like, you don't lift or eat. So the gear ain't doing good. I have to teach you how to lift and eat first. I know how to. Like, if you knew how to, you wouldn't be asking for help at all.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, that's a good point. It's like, I didn't do gear for the first 18 years that I lifted. And I devised my own dieting from the age of 12 on. So I know that I put the time in before I made the change to the dark side, as we put it, in the downtime. But it's like, well, a lot of guys are like, yeah, I've got 12 weeks that I'm off of work, and I haven't lifted or anything in 2 years, but I'm ready to start a cycle. I'm like, fuck that. You're going to have to at least lift 4 to 6 weeks with no gear before you get anything.
Give me a month.
Okay.
Give me a month. Give me a month of diligent dieting
they
and
don't
lifting.
even respond after that. They pay you all this money.
Yeah.
You tell them no gear, and then they just don't respond to you. They just put themselves on their own cycle, and they just wing it.
Right.
But they still paid you, and it's like, whatever.
Yeah.
What are you going to do, chase them down?
Something that a good rule of thumb, or I don't know rule of thumb, but this is what I did with my gear usage. I competed for a while. Actually, the prep for my pro card is when I first added in like a little bit of Anavar. And then from there, every time I thought I needed to add in something else, I would add in a little bit more something, a little bit. And then every time I achieved a little bit better look, but I did it so slow and in such a way where I could control everything, and I could progress naturally, unnaturally,
right.
and not have to be, some girls, like, they just take everything their first time competing.
Mm-hmm.
And,
right.
I think that if girls do want to start taking stuff, I think start very, very, very minimal and ride that prep out and see how it goes and see what you need to work on next. Because you may be taking something that your body doesn't even, like, if you burn fat really easily, you don't need fat burning compounds, but you may need a muscle burn one. So
Exactly.
My advice to girls who want to start taking things, because I know it's a thing, just do it slow. Take a little bit, experiment with it, do all your research, make sure it's something that you definitely want to take and that you're cool with. Don't just listen to the jacked guy at the gym who wants to sell you some juice. And, my advice would be to take it very slowly with everything. And that'll, I think, give you a lot of longevity in this sport as a female, by not burning out all of your hormones and your organs. And just be careful, everybody.
Shit's got an upper limit, and it's like, don't go higher than that upper limit. If you're going to have to go higher than the upper limit, pick a new drug that does something similar in a slightly different way and add it in. So, like, Keith knows this. I look at it as like there's 7 different slots, and I will go half dose or quarter dose in all 7 slots before I go into a even normal dose in one slot. Like I'm on 1 unit of GH.
Yeah.
You know, people are like, why the fuck, what's the point in that? It's like, well, the timing of the day that I use it and the stuff I do before and after it makes that 1 unit work like 2 or 3.
Right.
But that's just how I roll, is I make sure to be really careful with it, rather than, you know, like you could shoot someone in the eye with a 9mm and it's going to do a lot more damage than shooting them in the foot with a mag. So it's like how you use the drugs is just as important as how much drug you're using. It's not always size that matters, or magnitude in this case.
Right. It's like a lot of things, but just a little amount.
Right. So like 5 milligrams of Anavar before you do cardio is a lot different than doing 2.5 twice a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Because if you're constantly bombarding those androgen receptors, you might start to force a sex change, ladies. But if you're doing it right before the most catabolic time of day, which is fasted cardio, then that means that you'll preserve the most amount of muscle in your deficient state, because that's the point of a dry compound, is to hang on to muscle while you're in a calorie deficit.
Right.
It's not really the muscle.
Awesome. I'm doing it right.
Yeah.
Confirmed.
Well, go ahead.
Well, actually, one more thing I wanted to say about that was, you know, girls, if you guys need to take all these drugs, maybe you're in the wrong sport, or maybe you're in the wrong division, or maybe you don't need to compete. You know, people think that you have to compete to be fit, and you have to compete to have a big Instagram or whatever they care about. But, you know, if you have to take all of these measures and inject all of these compounds, like maybe this isn't
for you.
Like maybe you're just not built for it.
Right.
You know?
Well, it's still a genetic sport where you have to have the genetics in order to get to the level you're at. Obviously, you have the genetics for the sport, or you wouldn't be where you're at. I mean, there's no. Right. I don't care how hard you work, you're not going to outwork your genes. And if you don't have the genes, you're not going to have the genes by taking a bunch of shit. It's just not. It's not going to change things for you. You're just going to, you know, if you look like 10 pounds of shit in a 3-pound bag, you're still going to look like 10 pounds of shit in a 3-pound bag. You're just going to look like 10 pounds of shit in a 3-pound bag that's altered a little bit, and you've you know, maybe a little bit bigger. That's what
you're
going
to
to
look like 20 pounds of shit.
Right. Right. I mean, I've seen plenty. If the drugs were everything, then half the people that are at local contests and stuff would be, you know, looking like Mr. Olympia on stage, because I know there's lots and lots and lots of guys that take 2 and 3 times the amount that I do, and they're not in shape at all. And you know, and Todd, you've seen the same thing. You've had guys that you've beaten that are taking 3 and 4 times the amount, but they don't train hard, and they don't they don't eat right, you know, their diet's shit. They don't do cardio. They don't do what they're supposed to do. So if it was all drugs, then those guys should be winning every show, right? It's not the case.
The only thing that's more important than hard work is the well-formulated plan from your own experimentation.
Right.
And that doesn't mean, like, with needles, it means that I respond good to this rep range. When I do that rep range, my joints hurt. And when I do this rep range, I lose bad. Right. So it's like you got to learn what works for you, feed it correctly, sleep, and then if you're not recovering, that's when anabolics or stuff are added in, so you can recover fast enough to get back in there and break that shit down again.
Right.
Oh, I like this. This has been a sciencey conversation. I love this.
We always get way off in the science trend.
I think it always comes back to gear.
Love it.
But it's the thing that I honestly think people.
If we shot our gear load right in the first 10 minutes.
Right. They wouldn't listen anymore.
They listen to the diet and the training part.
Right. Well, and at the same time, it's the thing that people ask the most questions about, and it's the thing that people do wrong the most frequently. Yep. So I feel like it's important. I mean, it's not that important. It's more important to just get people to stop doing some of the shit that they're doing. But at the same time, they don't believe us anyway, so it doesn't fucking matter. You know.
A good example would be like a flaming sword. All right. So like, if a flaming sword is not that useful if it's gonna break the second it hits the shield, or if you don't know how to fight with a fucking sword.
Right.
So it's like maybe first, instead of learning how to enchant your sword to burst into flames, learn how to use a sword.
Right.
Or learn how to make a sword that's not going to break the second you hit someone's shield or they parry.
Right.
And then the third step is making it burst into flames to scare the fuck out of people. No.
All right. Well, guys, I think this is a pretty good show. Dani, I would like to thank you for coming on.
No problem. Anything you guys want to, I mean, now I have a 10-week prep ahead of me, so.
Yeah, well, it'd be good to get you on again here, either before the show or even right after the show, so we can go over, where you're at with things and how things went. So we'll definitely have you on again.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think we get some valuable information from this as far as, just the dieting itself and some of the changes that you endure going through it. And as you're getting closer to the show and you're having to move things around and changing carbohydrates and sources, and, it would be really interesting. Actually, it would be really good if we did it after the show. Then you could talk about your peak week and what you did and what went right and what went wrong with it. So we can kind of get an idea there. So definitely thank you for coming on, and we'll have you on again. So for Todd Lee, this is Keith Fabbri saying this is the Weekly Grind podcast brought to you by Valhalla Labs at valhalla-labs.com, and we will see you again. Keep grinding.
Bye, everybody.